Hi guys, I'm Kristen. Welcome back to my channel. I've got a big cup of tea, I'm in my comfy chair, and today I wanted to do a really cozy chat video talking to you about all of my reading goals for 2022. We had our first snowfall last night, and it's actually cold enough that there is still some snow on the ground. I'm feeling very cozy, very seasonal. I've got candles lit. I thought it would be the perfect time to have like more of a cozy chat style video about the goals that I have leading into next year with reading. If you have been watching my channel for a while, it probably won't come as a surprise to you that I don't have a lot of very specific numbers-based goals in terms of how many books I read. I have mentioned other reading goals, I think, in various other videos. I know that I put out a video of all of the series that I would like to start next year. So that is a more specific goal of books and series that I would really like to work on reading. And I think that's something that I am noticing with the trend in all of the goals that I'm going to be mentioning today, and even with that video, is just having a little bit more structure. Priority, I feel like, is a big thing for me. I find it less constricting than like specific goals, but if I know that I have a priority for something, I have lists that I can check to when I want, then that is where I think I'm the most happy and successful. So one of the first goals that I have here is to be a lot more intentional with the specific books that I'm reading and avoid picking up random Scribd recommendations in particular. What I mean by being more intentional is that I've really noticed this past year when I am really in the mood for reading, but I don't necessarily have a plan because I'm not really doing TBRs anymore, I tend to fall back into this almost like scrolling pattern of looking for book recommendations. I do find that Scribd is really affecting this, where I will read one random one-off bad romance book on Scribd, and when I pick up Scribd to just kind of scroll and look through things, this is what it's recommending to me, and it has led me to read a lot of books this year that I just really don't care about at all. And I feel like it's been not a waste of time, but a little bit of waste of time. Like, I didn't enjoy them, I wouldn't recommend them. This is something that I would really like to work on next year, is just being really intentional, having more of a plan. And again, like, not a very tight structured TBR plan that I probably won't follow, but having lists of different genres of books that when I am in the mood to pick something up, I can check these lists first. I am not great about keeping track of books that I want to read. Sometimes this will be, I will randomly hit want to read on Goodreads. I did have an Excel sheet for a while, but I have not been maintaining that. And so I'd like to find some sort of system that better allows me to have like a want to read list. So all of this is to say that I would like to be more intentional of having a plan in place, even a loose structured plan of books that I would like to get to over time for these, not emergencies, but for these situations where I want something lighter, that's less of a commitment, that I think I am more likely to enjoy because I have put some thought and effort into creating this list. If anything that I'm saying is really jiving with you and you're like, oh, I think that you would really appreciate or like also really suit this system that I have of keeping track of my TBR, please let me know down below. This does kind of lead me to another one of my, it's not necessarily a goal, but it's sort of a thought here, and that is about Scribd. I do have access to 2 libraries. I am usually able to get a copy of a book that I want to read within a reasonable amount of time. Like, I do have to wait months for some books. Scribd is not free, and I am pretty frugal with money, and specifically on book buying. So if I can get a book in the library, why would I listen or read it on Scribd that I'm paying for? Like, do you know what I mean? And maybe I should be keeping track of which books I actually really need Scribd for, versus if all of the books that I'm interested in reading are accessible to me through my libraries, then I don't necessarily need to be spending that money every month. Another goal that I would really like to work on, I'm already starting to work on this, or at least I'm in like the contemplative setting up getting ready for it, thinking about it phase of this goal is that I would like to have and set more boundaries on when and where I read. I think that my health and productivity and motivation and all of that stuff is really wrapped up in my reading habits. For example, when I'm feeling very low motivation and not feeling great mentally, I am more of an avoidant style of approach, or like procrastinator as well. So I will just bury my head in a book for days and avoid all of the things and the problems and the things that I need to do. And I would really like to stop that. It leads me to reading lots and lots of books in a year, but it is not great for me personally. So I would like to set in place a little bit more structure and boundaries. You're gonna notice structure is like a big word in this video, I think. But I would like to have more boundaries on when and where I read. Particularly, I am a night owl and I read well into the night, very late. This is affecting both mine and my partner's sleep because it's very easy because I mostly read on my ebook reader. I'm not generally reading physical books. So I'm reading on my e-reader and it's really easy to just pull your head under the covers and keep reading with an e-reader, not like with a physical book. I can and do read well into the night, sometimes really late. And I always say that it's because I'm having trouble sleeping. And to some extent, I do have trouble falling asleep, but also it's because I continue this habit. But I think now more it's almost that I'm riling myself up. Like I will be reading exciting books that I cannot put down. And of course, you're not gonna fall asleep if you're reading in crazy intense action sequences at 3 a.m. So I think that I'm at least going to limit on how late in the evening I read. Even if 12, like midnight, was my boundary of I have to put a book down by this time, that would be a huge improvement on my general sleeping and reading habits on a daily basis. I know how important sleep is. I know how much my sleep and my health is being affected, and like my motivation and productivity, all those things are being affected by this particular, I'm a night owl, I like to read at night, I can't sleep thing that is happening. So I'm going to be a lot more strict with myself about putting a book down. Let's start with midnight, and maybe by, I don't know, a third or halfway into the year, I'll get that down to 11 at night. The other kind of boundary that I was thinking of setting as well is in the morning. So my habit is really to get up, get a cup of tea or coffee on the weekends, and tell myself I just need to sit down for a minute and read a little bit while I wake up to the world and have my morning tea and coffee. And I do have a schedule that allows me to have that freedom and flexibility, which I know I am very lucky to have. The problem is that I don't just sit down for a minute and read. I sit down for a couple hours and read, and I need to stop that. So my thought process here, which this is the one where I'm sort of starting to implement a little bit, is that I think if in the morning I have my cup of tea and instead of physically reading a book, if I've listened to an audiobook, then I feel silly just sitting there listening, drinking my tea. And I plan to get up and get around the house and do more housekeeping and dishes and like all of that stuff in the morning, so that I feel like I have been productive, but I've still been listening to an audiobook. So I feel like I'm making progress in my books as well. Those are all of the boundaries that I'm going to set on when and where I do my reading. And I think even that a little amount, like going to bed at a decent time, putting the book down at a certain time at night, and then listening to audiobooks in the morning so that I can run around and do errands, I think will drastically change my life. To be honest, it might affect how much I read, but honestly, I'm okay with that. This does kind of lead me into another goal that was a lot more general, like it's not a specific goal, and it was just to really enjoy books and not binge through books, and to the extent that I don't remember much about them afterwards. because I have a lot of time to read and because I'm generally always looking for something to read, it leads me to reading books rather quickly, even though I'm a very slow reader. But I get through books really quickly because I have a lot of time to put towards them. But there's so many books that I read this year that I don't remember anything about. Even books that I really love, I think that I binge a little bit too quickly. So having like a physical book that I read in the evening and an audio book that I'm listening to in the morning, I think will slow down how quickly I get through each individual book. And I'm hoping that that will let everything sink in a little bit more and hopefully allow me to like enjoy and savor what I'm reading more so than just like binging through it and getting it done and over with. On the memory note, I didn't even plan this, but this is perfectly, my goals are all very related. But anyway, on the memory note, this leads me as well into, I think, my final goal, which is to find a better system of note-taking. I don't annotate books. I do sometimes highlight on the ebook or bookmark the page, but I'm generally reading library books, so as soon as the library book is returned, I don't have access to any of those notes or comments that I made while reading it, and I do not have a good system of note-taking. Note-taking or annotating is something that I have never done while reading before, but with the BookTube channel, it is something that I need to do in order to be able to more effectively share my thoughts on the book at the end of the month or whenever I'm doing a Lucid Reads or a wrap-up video, or even just for recommendation videos where I need like a list of books. I want to be able to be like, oh, what books did I read were fall vibes or had a wintry feel or were very hopeful, and I just have to scan the Excel sheet where I've written the title of the book and hope that jogs my memory. So that's my current system and it's not effective. So I am really, really looking for a new style of note-taking, whether that means software. I actually would really like it if there was some sort of software involved, specifically one that has some sort of visual element to it, because I'm very visual, and keywords so that I can put specific like ideas or themes so that I can search that later and have all of the autumnal books pop up when I search that. I did find a software that I think that I would have liked. It was called Bear. However, it is only at the moment for Macs. They have no intention of putting this for Windows or Android, which I have. If you have a software system that you think is really great for what I'm describing in terms of note-taking for my book so that I can type up all the things that I think about afterwards and put like a few keyword phrases and maybe tag or put the cover of the book on some sort of thing so that I can recognize it when I'm scrolling through, that would be ideal. I did try using notes on my phone, but I think I did that for 2 months earlier in the year and it has not been consistent. So I obviously don't have a specific plan for this note-taking thing, but I would really, really like to dedicate some time to finding the right software or the right note-taking system so that I can better arrange and store all of my thoughts on all of the books that I read. I was wrong. There is one more goal, and this one actually is monetary related. I mentioned that I was thinking about getting rid of Scribd, or at least that I was going to start contemplating whether and assessing whether or not I really, really need Scribd. The other thing is the amount of books that I buy. So this year I was sticking to sort of a 1 book a month purchase, and I have been successful with that. I think up to date I have only bought 10 books, so I'm even under on that. But a lot of them are books that I bought spontaneously and more ebooks. So I'm thinking about either sticking to that goal of no more than 1 book a month. But honestly, I'm wondering if I even need that with the amount of library reading that I've been doing. There are other things in my life that I would like to put money towards, and at the moment, physically owning books is not the highest priority for me money-wise, but I do really, really get sucked into, I need to read this book right now and it's not available at the library yet, and so then I spontaneously buy the ebook. I've been a lot better about this in the second half of the year, but in the first half of the year, a lot of my monthly ebook purchases were spontaneous buys because I absolutely could only read the X Talk right now and no other romance book would satisfy my need, which is just silly. And this does relate back to obviously having a better lists of TBR books. So I do know that that will impact that as well. We will likely be moving sometime in the next year, either to a different apartment in this city or a different country completely. So I'm still being cautious or like hesitant on buying physical books, but I actually almost at the moment would prefer buying books that I have already read and loved and owning those instead of spending money on a book that I might not like. If I really love a book, I'm going to reread it. I am a rereader. I'm gonna get back to that book. And I just like owning books that are favorites of mine. Like, I think that's okay. I'm okay with that. I have been having a lot of success with library reading and using script, and even that is maybe not necessary. Those are all of the goals that I think that I have going into next year. Some of them very specific and some of them more general, still to be determined how that is going to look in actuality or how that is going to be rolled out. I hope that you enjoy this relaxed chat video. Do you have any specific goals going into next year? Are they numbers related? Are they more habit related? Do you have a software system of note taking or think you know one that you think I would vibe with? Please let me know down below. I really need something for that. Okay, well that is it for me today. If you made it this far and you just want to let me know that you're still here, put a book emoji. We'll just keep it basic today. Book emoji in the comment section. And I will see you guys next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.